Hello, I'm June Grosso, and here's the latest in a story we've been following very closely. A freelance producer employed by Court TV has been taken hostage by a prison inmate she was interviewing in upstate New York. Kenneth Kimes grabbed Maria Zone during an interview yesterday at about 2:20. He held a pen to her throat, and Kimes is serving a 125-year-to-life sentence for murdering 82-year-old Irene Silverman in a scheme with his mother to steal her $7 million Upper East Side townhouse. We are going to be joined by Maria Zone live in just a few moments. She was released, of course, after that 4-hour ordeal. Joining us now from our studio in New York is Mel Sachs, who was the attorney for Kenneth Kimes and obviously knows him well. Tell us, Mel, first of all, were you shocked when you heard that he was holding Maria Zone hostage, or had you seen these kind of tendencies during your work with him?
This was totally out of character for him, June. I was shocked and amazed. I couldn't believe him doing this. I've been with him for many, many months during the course of the trial, and I spent an inordinate number of hours speaking with him. And he's always been calm, courteous, well-mannered, soft-spoken, and I just do not understand why he acted like this, and I'm saddened to learn about it. Fortunately, Maria Zone is safe and well, and that, of course, was the priority.
Mel, tell me this about what faces him. Apparently, he made demands for his mother that he didn't want her to be extradited to California, where she could face the death penalty. What is ahead for Kenneth Kimes and his mother that would lead him to do this? Yeah,
both he and his mother, Sante Kimes, are facing the death penalty in California for the death of David Kasdan. Now, here's a young man who's been convicted, sentenced 125 years to life, separated from his mother, away from any family members, not able to communicate with them in any way at all. His case is on appeal, and now he's in the process of going to California with the prospect of the death penalty for both he and his mother. I'm certain that the feelings that he has inside were ventilated, and unfortunately they were displaced, and Maria Zone was there with all good intentions. I know that Kenneth wanted so much to speak to Court Television. In fact, before the trial began, we had made a motion to the court to allow Court Television to come in and be there for the course of the trial, and this was just in the wake of the Diallo ruling, which permitted televisions in a New York courtroom. And he was so disappointed that Court TV was not able to be there, and now this was his opportunity to speak to Court TV.
Mel, I know you are correct. I have seen an interview with him where he expresses his sorrow that that trial was not covered live. He wanted to be covered live so that he could have everyone see what happened. He felt that that would give him more of a sense that justice was being done, that the eyes of the world were upon him.
Yes.
Right now, I would like to say that Maria Zone, the Court TV producer who survived this incredible ordeal, is joining us live from Syracuse. Maria, the first question has to be, how do you feel this morning?
Well, June, I really haven't slept. It's a long ride from Dannemora, where the Clinton Correctional Penitentiary is, back home to Syracuse. But I feel so lucky to be okay and reunited with my children and my husband, and I just feel fortunate. I really do. It was a horrifying experience, as you can imagine.
I can't imagine. And Maria, when I spoke to you last night on the phone, just hours after you had been released, you sounded so in control and calm about it. what were your feelings then? I mean, once you were released, was it completely over in your mind and, you know, on to the next thing? Because one of your cameramen told me that you were talking about shooting next week.
Well, you know, I had interviews scheduled for tomorrow and Friday. I think I'm going to postpone those for a couple of days, but I think the story must go on, and now it's just become a even more incredible story. I don't think, June, it's really hit me yet. I haven't really had time to distance myself and really digest everything. Again, I'm just really feel fortunate that it didn't escalate and he really didn't harm me.
Well, Maria, you and I have worked together, and I know that you are not the kind of, you're not a pushy producer. You're not someone who is going to, you know, be so aggressive as to be antagonistic toward an interview subject. So what, and you've talked to him before without any incident, what do you think set him off?
Well, I really wish I knew, because I really can't figure it out. I don't have a clue. I have to agree with Mel that he never showed any hostility towards me, and he also expressed to me his desire to talk to Court TV over and over and over again, and that's why I was there yesterday. So I don't think I asked him anything that set him off. I don't know if he had planned this before we sat down. My gut tells me that he really didn't, that this was something that, you know, was spontaneous for him. I for some reason, feel that way.
And Maria, tell us, and I hope this is not too difficult for you to relive this for us for a moment, what happened. I know that he went to the bathroom and you were going to get him some goodies or water. What happened when he actually took you hostage?
Well, I came back with the bottled water and the 2 candy bars, which, you know, it sounds pretty stupid and foolish, but I handed those over to him.
I want to stop you there, because it doesn't, because I've done that in interviews with people. They say, I need water, I need coffee, or it wasn't a stupid move on your part at all. I don't think that, I think most producers would do that. But
well, actually, I didn't think it was an unreasonable request for him to say to me, I'm thirsty, you know, would you mind getting me something to drink? And then, of course, I volunteered and said, well, would you like something to eat? So I brought him the candy bars, and June, it happened in seconds. And the next thing I knew is he had this pen under my chin, and then he was around. He came behind me, and he had his right arm under my neck and the pen in his left hand at that point. And he said to me, this is a hostage situation. And I said, Ken, what are you doing? You know, do you know what you're doing? And the security guard, there was a security guard present there, and he, I guess, alerted the others, because very quickly there was at least 20 other correction officers there. And he backed us into a corner where I spent a good 3 hours crouched down with him. And just, you know, he did keep whispering to me, I'm not going to hurt you, I'm not going to hurt you, but he was still, you know, had this pen to my neck, and I just had these visions of him stabbing me in the neck or the eyes or the face, and I was looking up at the officers trying to see if they, you know, could tell me anything. And there was one man who was gesturing to me, one officer who was gesturing to me to cover my eyes, and so I did that for an awful long time.
People think, oh, it's a pen, but a pen can be deadly.
Well,
in the hands of, if near your eye or near your throat. So, what were you there in the present moment, or were you thinking about your children and your husband, and what was going through your mind?
All those things. It was really a wave of emotion. I mean, I just went through the gamut of emotions. Where do I start? You know, obviously I was scared, and then there were moments where I wanted to rationalize with him, and I would turn around and I'd say, Ken, you know, look me in the eye, Ken. You know, this is not helping your cause. Let me help you. You know, we can end this peacefully. And he would say to me, but I have you. You know, now they're going to listen to me. And I had done a piece on hostage takers a couple of years back, and you know, they crave attention, and he certainly was desperate, and obviously, and he wanted the attention. I really sympathized with him a lot. Towards the end, I really just was plain mad. You know, I remember distinctly that I felt his heart pounding against my back. And
yeah, you said that last night, and that is certainly those words, as you know, we left for the night and went home and you went on your way, those words remained with me, that you could feel his heart pounding. Maria, stay there. I want to bring in on the phone now the attorney for Sante Kimes, Michael Hardy, who also, of course, got to know Kenneth Kimes very well. Thanks for joining us, Michael. Tell me this.
Good morning.
Good morning. Just first about his case now. This complicates things immensely. You have appeals going as far as the case in New York. Now he's going to be facing other charges in New York.
Right. Well, you know, let me first say to Maria that I'm very happy to hear that you're okay and that you got home safe and the whole incident ended without problem. I know it's always a tough job being a reporter, and particularly when you feel like you're helping someone get their story out. And I think the Kimes have a story to tell because I think they believe in their innocence. But I just want Maria to know that certainly we were thinking about her, and we're very happy to hear that it ended without any incident to her. And she was very courageous in that. With regard to his appeal situation, the incident that happened yesterday has no actual impact on the legal issues in his appeal. What it does do is create, as you say, other problems for him if they decide to prosecute him on new charges of assault or unlawful imprisonment. That certainly could have an impact, but there's no direct impact on the underlying issues. And I think Mel would agree that with regard to the appeal, there are some very significant issues. And certainly, I don't think Kenny should do anything, and hope that he doesn't do anything further that further damages the public opinion against him, because as we all know, that sometimes, you know, we're all subjective in some respects, and that impacts on judges who have to decide this appeal.
Well, I think, you know, public opinion right now is certainly against him. Mel, are you worried now about the new charges that he is probably going to be facing from this incident?
Well, first of all, I'm gratified that Maria is fine and well and with her family, and I just want to commend her not only on her courageousness out of necessity in the circumstances, but also on her careful and conscientious way in which she handled this interview. And I'm speaking about in preparation for the interview. She wanted to make sure to treat Kenneth in the most fair manner, and I felt very comfortable, and Kenneth did as well, having Maria get his story. And just unfortunately...
Mel, if I may interrupt you, he obviously, something went wrong. He obviously felt comfortable, and then something went very, very wrong. You say that you've never seen this kind of action on his part, yet he takes a pen to the throat and the eye of someone who was interviewing him, who had interviewed him before, who was just in the very initial stages of an interview. So certainly the hard questions, Maria, correct me if I'm wrong, but the hard questions hadn't come yet, I assume.
June, can you hear me?
Yes.
You're right. I mean, just the basics. We really had just covered the basics. So I don't think it was one of my questions that triggered, you know, this action in him. Again, I wish I knew. I really don't know what could have done that.
Right. Well, let me ask Michael Hardy for a moment. Michael, have you spoken to Kenneth Kimes' mother, Sante, about this incident?
Well, I have not had an opportunity to speak to Sante since this happened yesterday, and I'm going to try to do that during the course of the day today. And I'm sure that even at the Bedford Hills facility, that security there has probably been tightened around Sante, and it may be difficult for her to get to a phone. I have spoken to Sante on a regular basis. Last time was about a week, maybe 2 weeks ago. And she has constantly expressed her concerns for Kenny. I know there was some talk about the fact that she was concerned that she may be extradited. There's been no, I've gotten no official information about that, and no papers have been served concerning that. But as I said last night, this is the first time that Kenny and his mother have been separated during his adult life. And for a young man who's looking at the time that he's facing and has apparently begun to indicate that he's feeling some stress, and he deeply cares about his mother. And if he heard that through the grapevine that she may be leaving the state, that may very well have prompted him to act in this way.
Yeah, they did have... okay, go ahead, Maria.
No, he obviously, expressed to me yesterday that he was concerned for his mother. At first, he expressed to me that he was concerned for himself. I mean, he kept saying to me, they're going to kill me, they're going to kill me. And I said, who's going to kill me? And then he would say, he was going to die in prison. And then I thought he was alluding to the fact that he was facing the death penalty in California. But then a little bit afterwards, he kept saying, my mother's old and she can't, she won't be able to deal with this trial and she'll die. And, he did keep saying, referring to his mother, and the hostage negotiators, would try to tell him that his mother would definitely not agree with his behavior and that he was, making things worse. But that didn't seem to help the situation any.
Well, we're going to be talking with one of the top hostage negotiators in the country in just a few moments. Maria, please stay right there. And thank you so much, Michael Hardy, for joining us on the phone, and Mel Sachs for joining us here in New York in the studio. We appreciate your spending the time with us. We're going to take a very quick commercial break, and we'll be back on the other side with more from Maria's Zone and more from how the situation was handled by the hostage negotiating team, how they managed to get her out of there safely.
On Crier Today, it's been more than 3 years since the tragic death of Princess Diana. Now find out why a new tell-all book about her life has her son, Prince William, outraged. Plus, he's known as Dr. Poison. Michael Swango is admitted to killing at least 3 people and is suspected of dozens more. We'll hear from his victims' families. And the dark side of the internet, a sneak peek at HBO's new documentary, Hate.com. Join me for Crier Today at 1 p.m. only on Court TV.
At Eureka, seeing is believing. And with the new Whirlwind Plus, you'll clearly see it's the best cleaning bagless cyclonic upright. With the best capacity dust cup, easy to empty too. It's also the best filtering. No upright provides better air purity. And no one offers more choices in bagless cyclonics than Eureka. With prices starting as low as $139.99, no one offers more value. Eureka, headquarters for bagless cyclonic cleaning.
It may not seem like it now, but winter's just around the corner. I'm Bob Vila. Now's the time to get your home ready for colder weather. An older heating system may not be as efficient or reliable as it should be. But who do you call? Call Sears Home Central, someone you know and trust to do it right. Your total solution for heating systems, sales, installation, and service. Sears Home Central installs a full line of efficient, reliable heating systems that can save you hundreds of dollars in energy costs and keep your home comfortable for years to come. Don't be caught unprepared.
Call now for a free in-home estimate from a Sears Home Central heating specialist.
A new heating system from Sears Home Central will keep you snug and warm through winter's worst. And your satisfaction is guaranteed or your money back.
Right now, you can get 0% financing for a full year on select high-efficiency heating systems when you use your Sears card. That means no billing, no payments for 12 months. Don't wait. Call Sears. The good life at a great price, guaranteed.
2/3 of your estate gone. Without proper planning, 2/3 of everything you've worked so hard to acquire could go to the government. Call Solomon Smith Barney at 1-800-EARNS-IT, extension 358, and see how a simple will isn't enough. Get your free special report, 10 strategies for preserving your wealth. You'll learn how to shelter up to $1 million by 2006. Why it may pay to retitle your assets. and whether you should own life insurance in your own name. See how to protect the people you care about most. Call 1-800-EARNS-IT, extension 358 for your special report today. See how we earn it. Solomon Smith Barney.
Welcome back. We're being joined by Maria Zone, the Court TV producer who was held hostage at a prison in upstate New York yesterday. She's coming to us live from Syracuse. And on the phone, retired New York City Police Captain Frank Bowles. He is one of the founders of the NYPD's hostage program. He founded that in 1972, and he became the commanding officer and the chief negotiator of the hostage negotiating team. He negotiated more than 285 incidents without a single loss of a single hostage or police officer. Thanks so much for joining us, Captain Bowles. And
good morning.
I understand that you and Maria have worked together before, actually.
Yes, it's quite a few years ago, but I remember the name is the only Z I have in my phone book.
Yes, it's been quite a number of years. How are you?
Very good, and I'm so happy that you're out safe and sound.
Well, let me ask you something, Maria. First of all, did you learn, you said you had done a story, obviously, with Captain Bowles. Did you learn the skills that you obviously used last night? Did you use them on Kenneth Kimes, what you learned from Captain Bowles?
I tried. It's been several years, and I just remember, most importantly, that Frank had said that, you know, these guys just crave media attention. And I also, you know, remembered that, you know, the hostage negotiators were there and would try to appease him any way they could without giving too much, but you know, that they needed to try to wear him down. And I did try to go back and forth to that interview a couple of years ago. And at times it was helpful for me because, as I said, I went through a wave of emotions where sometimes I think I was rational. Other times, you know, I did sob and I, you know, would turn to him and say, please don't hurt me. You know, please, this is not... You shouldn't do this. This is just going to make matters worse for you.
Now, Captain Bowles, from what you've heard of what happened to Maria and how the negotiation team worked, was it by the book?
Yes, pretty much so. You know, we try to bring them out. The main thing and the most important part is life, saving the life of the persons involved. And how we do that, we try with negotiations, but it's a team effort with the tactical people. So if you can bring the person to a situation where you can make the rescue, you certainly will do that. And in this case, we see it did work.
Captain, are you permitted under police procedure to promise them whatever they want? If he says, I don't want my mother to be extradited to California, can you say, fine, we'll make sure that she's not extradited?
Well, you could do that. You could lie to him, but we try not to lie. We try not to make promises we can't keep because you would lose credibility on the next job that you have. And, you know, when people would always ask me, what's the toughest job you ever had? And I would always respond, the next one, because you never know what the next one's going to bring.
And tell me, Maria, did they promise him anything, the negotiators?
They were very good at not making concrete promises, but letting him know that the process was underway, that the wheels were in motion, and assuring him that they were doing something without saying, you know, point blank, you know, we definitely won't get your mother extradited.
Go right ahead, Captain.
No, that wasn't me. That was someone else.
Oh, okay. Maria, I remember last night you told me that one of the things that seemed to affect him was when you said, I want to go home to my children and my husband. And he said, oh, you have a family?
Yes, he was very surprised, and at that point he did seem sympathetic, so I thought maybe even I struck a chord with him, and that at that point maybe he would release me. You know, he did whisper, oh my God, I'm sorry, but it was just, you know, he had me held very tightly, and if I tried to move, in fact, I feel sore on this arm and a little soreness under my chin this morning, which I didn't feel last night, I think because I was so nervous and so tense, but, you know, he wanted to make sure that I did not leave. That was, you know, certain.
Captain Bowles, if I could put it this way, was Maria Zone the perfect hostage in that she did follow, you know, the rules that you would like hostages to follow? She made contact with him. She was sympathetic with him. She talked to him.
Yes, exactly. She was a person. She became an entity that he could sympathize with. And here's a guy who had a tremendous amount of feeling with his mother. And so Marie being a mother, I think that may have played into it. And one of the things I'm always very much concerned with in this day and age, that the media people have always had that halo of neutrality. And this seemed to protect them from criminals and from terrorists and so on. But as we've seen in this past few years, there are more people in the media who have been killed in the line of duty. And so that's why I would just stress to the media people, remember that neutrality that you did have many, many years ago is wearing a little thin. So use a little more caution, be a little careful. But there are some things, as happened yesterday, that you can't plan for, as what happened to Marie.
Look, one final question, Captain. And we know Maria Zone as a very impartial, fair journalist. One question as far as when the negotiating team with the tactical team decided to go in and wrestle him to the ground, was that the right move at the right point? Is that what you're always looking for, that one moment?
Well, if you can bring him out without having to use force, so much the better. But if it comes down to a point of the safety of the hostage and perhaps having to use violence against the perpetrator, the safety of the hostage is primary. That's what we're looking to do. The innocent persons are the persons we have to be concerned with.
Well, Captain Frank Bowles, retired captain, but you have written the book on hostage negotiations, and we thank you so much for being here with us this morning.
Thank you, and I'm so pleased that Maria is safe.
We all
Thank you,
are.
Frank.
So, Maria, you took with you, it shows you that the stories that you do through the years,
they come back.
When will, but you hopefully will never have to use this again. Do you have any fear of going into a prison again? Will you ever go into a prison setting again?
Oh, you know, you can't have that fear. I think this was an isolated incident, and again, I feel extremely fortunate that nothing happened. And, you know, foolish things go through your mind, June. I mean, I'm thinking back now, you know, I would look down sometimes and see the pen, and I thought about maybe biting his hand or something, or, you know, he let me drink some water. I thought about throwing the water in his face, and, you know, maybe I could make a break for it. But I said, this is not TV, this is not a movie, this is real, and I am in the middle of this crisis, so don't do anything stupid.
But yet I can see how that also, if it had been the right move, you might have distracted him enough to get the team in at that point, but you never know. And whatever you did, it certainly worked. And I think talking about your children, what the captain said really hit home. That may have been because he has an unusually close relationship with his mother.
That's what I have read, and we didn't get to that point in the interview, but he certainly, towards the end, was expressing his concern for the safety of his mother. You know, at the point where the hostage negotiators felt it was time to end this, he had dropped the pen, which made everybody feel a little bit more at ease. And we had changed our position because we spent a good portion of that time crouched in a corner. And we were both very cramped, and I remember just really huddling myself and actually, you know, being extremely close to him, just because I was trying to block my face and things. And so at that point we were sitting in chairs, and he had his arm in mine, and we were sitting down, and they said, you know, it's time for this to end, Kenny, let's just end it. And you know, I would take cues from the negotiators. They would say to me, Maria, tell him, and I would try to make eye contact with him and say, let's just end this, you know, let's not make this worse. But he just was not backing down.
Well, I think you know, the warmth of your personality comes through on TV as it does in person, and that probably really helped you a lot. And we're joined now by a New York Post reporter who is very familiar with the Kenneth Kimes case. Her name is Laura Italiano, and she is on the phone with us. Thanks so much, Laura, for joining us. I know you did face-to-face interviews with both Kenneth and Sante Kimes and covered their case. Tell us what your interviews were like. Did you have any points where you were afraid that something was going to happen?
You know, yes, it's true. He does have a caustic temper, and this has come out on a number of occasions. Mostly after 2 years of covering him, the press corps came to be used to thinking of him as just a freakish mama's boy. He wet his pants when he was arrested. He kept trying to hold his mother's hand at pretrial hearings. There was testimony at the trial that they slept in the same bed. In a lot of ways, he's so childish, making these very petulant tirades against his judges. But every now and then, this caustic temper would erupt. I saw it myself once interviewing him on the 12th floor of the Criminal Courts building in Lower Manhattan when he had a lawyer, where he would have his lawyer conferences. He was trying to convince me to do a story, which was a really harebrained story that the judge was out to get him and was personally intervening to keep him from sitting with his mother during these lawyer conferences. It was absolute nonsense. I told him I had no interest in doing the story. His face turned bright red. The veins in his neck started protruding. His hands were clenched. I was very happy that there was a plexiglass barrier between us, because it's kind of a frightening sight to see.
Well, you see, now there's the advantage over working in a newspaper as opposed to television, in that, Maria, you have to have the camera in the room with you. You can't have that plexiglass. I've interviewed murderers before, and most of us have who have worked in this business, and you can't have that protection.
Well, I think every interview situation is different. I've interviewed inmates that have been both handcuffed and shackled. I guess every institution has a different policy, and, I did not ask about the policy beforehand, but he was not handcuffed or restrained in any way.
Laura Italiano, first of all, thanks so much for giving us your time this morning. We appreciate hearing another perspective on this case. Maria, just to sum up, what have you learned from this that you would do something differently in your next interview, or would you do everything the same anyway?
I really can't think of anything I would do different, because I never anticipated it, obviously, or else I would not have put myself and the crew in that situation. I really don't think I would have done anything differently. I never saw this dark side. In fact, when I spoke to my executive producer after my first meeting with him, I said to Carolyn Kresge, the executive producer of Crime Stories, I said, he really is engaging. I can't believe how engaging he was. But I have to tell you that when I saw him the second time, and I don't know, if it's just psychological now, but he looked different to me. He didn't look as charming, and he looked evil to me. And I don't know if that's just me speaking post, hostage, but he looked different.
One final question, and that is, how was it when you finally saw your husband and got to hug your children?
I can't even describe it. Everything just went away for, a couple of minutes. My husband, ironically enough, I had asked him to accompany me on this trip just because I was driving, and it was a 5-hour drive, and the forecast said snow. My husband has never, ever accompanied me on any story. So I think that somebody was looking out for me, because part of the time that I was in the situation, I was thinking that he was going to be there for me, and he would be the first person that I would see, and the first person who would hug me and tell me that I was fine. So that was ironic.
Maria Zone, you have a story within a story now, and we look forward to seeing that on Crime Stories. We're all at Court TV so happy that you came out of this healthy and uninjured, and you handled yourself so well. Thanks so much for being with us this morning, and we'll have more, of course, on this with you on today's Crier Today at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. That's all for now. I'm June Grosso in the Court TV News Center. Now back to Open Court.